Hello from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Thank you very much for attending this virtual presentation. If you are physically in Florence, lucky you, I feel healthy envy and enjoy that beautiful city. My name is Concepcion Godev. My research and teaching relate to linguistics, translation studies, and pedagogy. And today I'm going to discuss two writing assignments that undergraduate students complete in a Spanish-English translation course at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. In this presentation, I will highlight the theoretical principles that guided the design of the two writing assignments. The Spanish-English translation course that I'm discussing today is an undergraduate course. It's actually a course that students take in their last year of their Spanish major. It is also the last translation workshop course that the students take out of 3. And typically in this class, we're going to find between 12 and 24 students enrolled in the class. Writing across the curriculum is a framework, is a movement that is founded on three elements. One is that writing develops over time, is discipline specific, and writing promotes learning. This movement has taken root in American higher education, in part because of the very different academic backgrounds that students bring to the classroom when they enter the university. The second theoretical framework that has guided the two writing assignments that I'm going to discuss in a few minutes is the so-called Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. UDL has been architected around 4 major ideas. The first one is the notion that learners learn in different ways, so they come into the classroom with multiple learning styles. I mentioned earlier that the academic background of undergraduate students in the United States is not homogeneous in higher education institutions. This diversity in academic background contributes to learners' needs differ significantly from student to student. But the learners' need also differ because everything else being equal, cognition just naturally presents variability. For instance, learners may have a preference for how to access information. Some learners learn better by reading information. Others may need to support reading with some kind of listening input or some kind of visual input. Another element to UDL is the notion of multiple ways to demonstrate learning. So this tenet is embedded in the first one regarding variability across learners. Variability across learners manifests itself in how well students perform depending on the task that is chosen when they have to perform and demonstrate what they have learned. The third element is multiple motivation triggers. In other words, different learners will be motivated by different elements that are happening in the classroom. So the instructor has to maximize the way motivation is triggered by different elements that happen in the classroom. So all these three elements in the end lead to the need of in some way the instructor has to make available to the students a certain level of individualized instruction. The Spanish-English translation course includes two writing projects. Assignment number 1 is a reflection paper, and assignment number 2 is a synopsis of a scholarly article. Each of the assignments is about 800 words in length. Both assignments provide students with the opportunity to experience writing as a process where they can receive individualized feedback for subsequent improvement. The purpose of these writing assignments is to develop writing skills in English while framing the writing within the field of translation studies. Because writing in the real world is often connected to reading models or content that informs the writer's writing, the two assignments are linked to material that students have to read in order to be able to complete the writing task. What you have in front of you is an excerpt of the instructions that the students receive in order to complete assignment number 1. This assignment focuses students' attention on making connections among ideas they may have studied in the course under discussion or in previous translation courses, and ideas they may have generated simply empirically by virtue of having had to face translation challenges in different translation projects. The bulk of the material studied is available in the textbooks used in translation courses. These textbooks are written in Spanish, and students are guided through the process of writing in 7 ways. One is the set of instructions, and again, what you have in front of you is just a very small excerpt of what it is actually a 2-page document with instructions. So these instructions guide the students to understand what it is that they need to accomplish with this reflection paper. Second, the students get information about how the assignment is going to be handled in terms of when the professor is going to provide feedback, when the professor is going to grade the assignment. They also receive a preview of the grading rubric that will be used to grade the final version of the paper. They have the opportunity to write a draft, and they can consult individually with the instructor while they are actually putting the draft together. They receive formative feedback on that draft. That draft does not get graded. They're given the opportunity to do individual consultations once the students receive the feedback on their draft. And finally, they have the opportunity to produce a final version, which is going to be the version that will be graded, and they have the benefit of the feedback on the draft in order to produce a final version that is the best that they can possibly produce. So the grading rubric is important in guiding the students through the assignment, because that gives them also it reinforces the understanding of the goals of the activity of the project, and how the project will be actually assessed or graded. So on the grading rubric, they have 7 criteria. One is timeliness of delivery of both the draft and the final version. The second criterion is language accuracy. The third one, which weighs a little bit more than, for instance, delivery timeliness, is clarity of expression. The fourth one is organization of ideas. The fifth one is documentation of sources of information. The sixth criterion is analytical thinking in the piece of writing. And the seventh one is following instructions. And in following instructions, there are sub-criteria, such as, for instance, relevance of the information that is included in the paper, as per the instructions that the students have received. On this slide, I'm showing you an excerpt of the instructions for the second assignment. Again, this assignment is going to be some 800 words in length. The students receive a 2-page set of instructions. And the aim of this assignment is for students to experience writing that involves a key component to what is called the scholarly review as a genre. So what they do is they focus on the component that we call the summary, which is part of a typical review of a scholarly article. This experience of summarizing makes writing accessible to the students, in the sense that they do not need to engage in the most complex element of what would be the scholarly review, namely assessing the merits of the work. Nevertheless, summarizing a scholarly article gives the student the opportunity to have a partial experience on this type of genre, which is widely used in translation studies as well as in most academic fields. The scholarly article that students are guided to summarize is written in English, and the process of the entire assignment follows the same steps as I described for assignment number 1. So they are provided with instructions that define the assignment. They're given a description about the procedures that are going to be followed. They have an opportunity to preview the grading rubric that will be used to assign a grade for the final version. They will write a draft, they will receive feedback on that draft, and along the way they can always reach out to the instructor for individual assistance. Finally, they will produce a final version, and that is the version that will be graded in the end. In conclusion, academic writing is a specialized genre, is a specialized type of writing that requires a highly sophisticated means of expression to be able to be successful at it. In looking at the feedback that I provided to my students, some of the patterns that emerged was that the students have difficulty distancing themselves from the subject matter. Because they are not used to the style of academic writing. This is something that they need to learn. Also, the lexical items that the students use in those writings tend to deviate from the genre of academic. Tend to be vocabulary that lacks precision, that lacks specialization. So all in all, I would have to give between 5 and 25 comments per student on their drafts, and all of them, when I provided feedback, had the opportunity to come to me and discuss the feedback with me in preparation for the final assignment. So definitely one very positive outcome of this assignment is that students were able to use L1 writing in their native language in order to reflect about translation processes, typically in a class that focuses mostly on workshopping the text, on doing actual translation. Sometimes it's difficult for the students to see the bigger picture of processes in translation that underlie actually the intuition of the translator. Also, one positive outcome of these assignments was that it did help me understand better the difficulties that students experience when they're asked to write in the second language. So this is this understanding that sometimes difficulties in writing do not stem from the foreign language, but actually the fact that the students do not understand the conventions of the genre in which they have to write is really helpful to understand, to separate out difficulties that come from a language that is in development versus difficulties that come from a different source. And these assignments actually could be used as a model for assignments that can be designed for the purpose of language development at an advanced level. And so with that, this is the end of my presentation. On this slide, I'm showing you 4 references that you may find useful if you want to learn more about writing across the curriculum and universal design for learning. And thank you, grazie, for attending this presentation. If you have any questions, if you would like to have a sample of the full assignment as I deliver them to the students, please contact me at this email address. Bye-bye.